Let's talk about something that makes people uncomfortable: control, or more specifically, what happens when people lose it over you. Because here's the truth. When people realize they can't control you, they don't just shrug their shoulders and move on. They react. And how they react tells you everything you need to know about them. Some people will criticize you hard, not because you've done something wrong, but because your independence exposes something in them. Fear, insecurity, the discomfort of not being in charge. They'll call you difficult, selfish, or too much. But let me tell you something. Someone else's discomfort is not your responsibility. Others will manipulate, not always in big, obvious ways, but in quiet, subtle guilt trips. You've changed. You don't care anymore. I guess I don't matter to you. These words aren't about you. They're about their struggle to accept that you won't bend to their expectations. And then there are the ones who will simply walk away. They'll exclude you, uninvite you, act like you're not part of the circle anymore. And that hurts because we all want to belong. But here's what I need you to hear. If belonging means shrinking yourself, then that's not belonging. That's performance. So what do? We set boundaries. And when we do, we disrupt the patterns that kept us small. Not everyone will like it. Some will resist. Some will leave. But the ones who stay, the ones who respect you even when they don't get to control you, those are your people. Living authentically takes courage. But I promise you, on the other side of control is freedom. And on the other side of fear is connection. The real kind, the kind worth fighting for. Control is a powerful illusion. Most people don't realize how much they rely on it, how much they need to feel like they have a say in how the world around them moves, especially when it comes to the people in their lives. It's human nature. We crave stability, predictability, and a sense of order. But what happens when that order is disrupted? What happens when someone, maybe you, decides to live life on their own terms instead of fitting into the expectations set by others? That's when the illusion starts to crack. And for some people, that's terrifying. See, when people feel like they have control over you, over your choices, your opinions, your emotions, it gives them a sense of comfort. It reassures them that things are as they should be. But the moment you start making choices that don't align with their vision of who you are or who they think you should be, they experience something deeply unsettling. The realization that they never actually had control in the first place. And here's the kicker. Most people don't know how to deal with that realization. Instead of sitting with their discomfort and examining where it comes from, they react. Some try to pull you back into their orbit by using guilt or shame. Others lash out with criticism, hoping to make you second guess yourself. Some even withdraw, punishing you with silence or exclusion, as if your independence is an offense they can't forgive. But none of that is really about you. It's about them. It's about their fear of losing the narrative they built in their heads. The one where they had a say in who you are and how you move through the world. Now, let's be honest. It's not easy being the one who breaks the illusion. It's not easy to stand in your truth when people around you are trying to push you back into a version of yourself that they're comfortable with. But here's what you have to remember. Real connection, real respect, real love, they don't require control. They don't require you to be smaller, quieter, or more agreeable just to keep the peace. So when people can't control you and they start reacting in ways that make you question yourself, take a step back and ask, is this about me? Or is this about them struggling to let go of the illusion? Because once you see it for what it is, it loses its power over you. And that's when you step into something even greater, your own freedom. Let's talk about projection, because if you've ever stepped out of the box someone tried to put you in, you've probably experienced it firsthand. Projection is one of the most common ways people react when they lose control over you. Instead of taking responsibility for their own insecurities, fears, or shortcomings, they turn them into accusations aimed right at you. It's not about who you really are, it's about what your choices stir up in them. Think about it. Have you ever made a decision for yourself? Maybe you started setting boundaries, pursuing a dream, or speaking up more, and suddenly people around you started saying things like, "You've changed. You're being selfish. You think you're better than us now. Why are you being so difficult?" At first it stings because you're not trying to be selfish. You're not trying to be difficult. You're just trying to be you. But here's the truth. Those words say more about them than they do about you. Why do people project? Projection happens when someone feels something, uncomfortable, jealousy, inadequacy, fear, but they don't want to admit it. Instead of acknowledging, wow, I feel insecure because I haven't been brave enough to make changes in my own life, they flip it, they make it about you. You're being arrogant. Instead of saying, I'm scared of losing my connection with you, they say, you're pushing people away. See the pattern? They can't sit with their own emotions, so they hand them to you, hoping you'll carry the weight instead. Criticism is a form of control. Criticism is another tactic that shows up when people can't control you. Because if they can make you doubt yourself, they can make you shrink. And if they can make you shrink, they regain a sense of power. Think about people who suddenly have a lot to say about your decisions once they realize you're no longer seeking their approval. Maybe they roll their eyes at your new goals. Maybe they mock your confidence. Maybe they find subtle ways to undermine you, little jabs, sarcastic comments, passive-aggressive remarks. It's strategic because if they can get you to second-guess yourself, maybe, just maybe, you'll retreat. You'll hesitate. You'll start asking, am I really doing the right thing? And the moment you start doubting yourself, they feel like they've regained some control. How to protect yourself from projection and criticism. The key to dealing with this, recognizing it for what it is. The next time someone criticizes you for standing in your truth, pause and ask yourself, is this really about me or is this about them? Are they offering genuine constructive feedback, or are they just uncomfortable with the fact that you're no longer fitting into their expectations? If it's the latter, don't take the bait. You do not have to accept someone else's insecurities as your burden. You do not have to dim your light to make them comfortable. Because here's the thing. People who truly respect and support you will not feel the need to control, criticize, or belittle you. They will not be threatened by your growth. The ones who react with projection and criticism, they're simply revealing the parts of themselves they haven't yet faced. So let them talk, let them project, let them criticize, and then keep going anyway. Manipulation is a quiet force. It doesn't always come with a loud argument or an obvious demand. Sometimes it sneaks in through a sigh, a disappointed glance, a carefully chosen phrase meant to make you feel like the bad guy. It's subtle, it's sneaky. And when people can't control you, they often turn to it as a last resort. One of the most common forms of manipulation, guilt tripping. If they can't force you to do what they want directly, they'll try to make you feel bad for not bending to their expectations. Because if they can make you feel guilty, they can get what they want without ever having to ask for it outright. What guilt tripping sounds like. Guilt tripping can take on many forms, but it often comes wrapped in emotional language designed to make you feel responsible for their feelings. Maybe you've heard things like, wow, I guess you don't care about me anymore. After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? Must be nice to only think about yourself. You used to be so much more considerate. I guess I'm just not important to you. At first, you might feel an instinctive need to defend yourself. You want to say, no, that's not true. I do care about you. And that's exactly the trap, because the moment you start explaining yourself, they've pulled you back in. You're now spending your energy trying to prove your loyalty, your love, your goodness, when in reality, you never owed them that explanation in the first place. Why do people use guilt as a weapon? Guilt is powerful because it taps into our deep need to be accepted and loved. No one wants to be seen as selfish, ungrateful, or uncaring. And manipulators know that. When someone can no longer control you in obvious ways, when you start making your own choices, setting boundaries, and standing in your truth, they often feel threatened. But instead of expressing that directly, they take a different route. They make you feel like you've hurt them, even when all you've done is choose yourself. But here's the truth. You are not responsible for managing other people's emotions. Read that again. Yes, we should be kind. Yes, we should treat people with respect. But if someone is upset because you are making choices that are right for you, that's their discomfort to process, not yours to fix. The cycle of emotional manipulation, guilt tripping, is rarely a one-time thing. It often becomes a cycle. You make a decision for yourself. Maybe you decline an invitation, set a boundary, or prioritize your well-being. They respond with guilt. Wow, I guess I don't matter to you anymore. You feel bad and reconsider. That's not what I meant. I'll try to make it work. They get their way. You end up doing what they wanted, even though it wasn't right for you. The pattern repeats. The more you give in, the stronger the cycle becomes. And over time, you start second-guessing yourself before you even make a decision. Will they be upset if I say no? Will they think I don't care? Before you know it, you're living in a way that revolves around keeping someone else comfortable at the cost of your own peace. How to break free from manipulation and guilt tripping. So how do you break the cycle? By recognizing it and refusing to engage. Acknowledge the manipulation for what it is. When someone says, I guess you don't care about me, step back and ask, is this statement based on reality, or is it an attempt to control me? Stop over-explaining yourself. You don't need to justify your boundaries or decisions. A simple, I can't, or that doesn't work for me is enough. Return responsibility where it belongs. If they say, I'm really hurt that you won't come, you can respond with, I understand that you're disappointed, but this is what I need to do for myself. Notice how you acknowledge their feelings without taking ownership of them. Except that not everyone will like your boundaries. That's okay. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to live in alignment with yourself. Choosing your peace over their control, breaking free from manipulation, it requires strength, self-awareness, and the willingness to disappoint people who are used to you bending to their needs. But remember this, you do not have to sacrifice your own well-being just to keep someone else comfortable. People who truly love and respect you will not try to guilt you into submission. They will honor your choices even when they don't benefit from them. And the ones who try to manipulate you, they're simply revealing that their care for you was conditional on their ability to control you. So when the guilt trips start, when the manipulation rises, when the emotional weight starts pressing on you, pause, breathe, and remind yourself you are allowed to make choices for yourself. You do not owe anyone an explanation for doing what is right for you. And most importantly, you are not responsible for carrying the weight of someone else's disappointment. Let's talk about one of the most painful things people do when they realize they can't control you. They isolate you. They exclude you. They act like you don't belong anymore. This is one of the hardest reactions to deal with because as human beings, we are wired for connection. We thrive on relationships, on community, on feeling like we are part of something bigger than ourselves. That's why rejection, whether direct or subtle, can hit so deeply. And when people who once welcomed you into their circle suddenly start shutting you out, it can feel personal. It can feel like you did something wrong. But here's what you need to remember. This isn't about you. Why people exclude you when they can't control you. When someone no longer has control over you, they often feel threatened. They may not even realize it consciously, but on some level, your independence makes them uncomfortable. Because if you can think for yourself, if you can set boundaries, if you can live without seeking their approval, then suddenly they're faced with a reality they don't like. They never had the power over you they thought they did. So instead of dealing with their discomfort, they do something easier. They shut you out. They might stop inviting you to gatherings. They might start acting distant, avoiding eye contact, giving you cold, short responses. Maybe they talk about plans in front of you but never extend the invitation. Maybe they act like you're invisible, like you no longer exist in the space you once shared. And if they're really passive-aggressive, they won't say a word about it, but they'll make sure you feel it. The silent punishment. Exclusion is a control tactic. Exclusion is a form of silent punishment. It's a way of saying, if you don't conform to what we want, you don't get to belong here anymore. It's an attempt to make you feel isolated, guilty, and uncertain, hoping that you'll come running back, willing to do whatever it takes to be accepted again. And sometimes it works, because when you start feeling alone, when you notice the shift in the way people treat you, the temptation is to fix it. You start wondering, did I do something wrong? Should I just go along with them so I don't lose my place? Maybe I was being too stubborn. Maybe I should apologize. But here's the hard truth. You shouldn't have to beg for a seat at a table that only welcomes you when you're easy to control. Real belonging does not require you to betray yourself. The fear of being alone versus the cost of pretending, one of the biggest reasons people give into exclusion is the fear of being alone. Nobody wants to feel like they don't belong anywhere. That fear can make you second guess yourself, making you wonder if maybe going back to the way things were is easier than standing alone. But let me ask you this, what is the cost of pretending? If being accepted means silencing yourself, ignoring your own needs, or shrinking to fit into a space that doesn't truly honor you, then what exactly are you gaining? Belonging that comes at the cost of your authenticity isn't belonging, it's performance. And if a group of people only want you around when you're bending to their will, then they don't truly respect or care about you. They care about the version of you that makes them comfortable, how to handle exclusion without losing yourself. So what do you do when you realize people are shutting you out because they can't control you? Recognize the tactic for what it is. When people exclude you, it's often a test. They want to see if cutting you off will make you come back, seeking their approval. If you understand that, you take away their power. Resist the urge to chase acceptance. It's natural to want to be included, but chasing after people who only want you on their terms will never bring you real connection. Instead, focus on relationships where you are valued for who you are. Build new connections. Just because one group shuts you out doesn't mean you are alone. There are people out there who will accept you fully without conditions. Seek out those relationships. Stand firm in your truth. The people who exclude you because they can't control you are showing you that they were never really your people to begin with. Hold on to that. It will hurt at first, but in the long run, it will set you free. When one door closes, another one opens. It's easy to focus on the doors that close when you start living on your own terms. It's easy to feel the sting of rejection and wonder if you made a mistake. But here's the thing. When people exclude you because they can't control you, they are actually making space for the right people to enter your life. the ones who will respect you, the ones who won't need you to fit into a box just to keep them comfortable, the ones who will celebrate your growth instead of resenting it. So the next time someone tries to make you feel like you don't belong, remind yourself, I am not here to be controlled. I do not need to fit into spaces that require me to shrink. I will not sacrifice my authenticity just to be accepted, because at the end of the day, the people who truly value you will never require you to betray yourself just to stay in their presence. And the ones who do, they were never meant to walk with you on your journey anyway. There comes a moment in life when you realize that your peace, your well-being, and your personal growth depend on one thing: boundaries. Boundaries are one of the most powerful tools you have. They define what is acceptable and what is not. They tell the world how you expect to be treated. They separate what is yours to carry from what belongs to someone else. But here's the thing, not everyone will respect your boundaries. In fact, the people who benefited from your lack of boundaries, the ones who are able to manipulate, control, or take advantage of you, are the same ones who will resist them the hardest. They'll push, they'll test, and they'll make you feel guilty for standing firm, because to them, your boundaries aren't just a personal decision. They're a threat to the control they once had over you. Why boundaries are so powerful. A boundary is not a wall. It's not about shutting people out or refusing to engage. It's about setting clear expectations for what you will and will not tolerate. Boundaries protect your mental and emotional well-being. When you constantly allow people to overstep, you end up drained, resentful, and overwhelmed. Boundaries keep you grounded. Boundaries give you freedom. When you stop living for everyone else's expectations and start honoring your own needs, you reclaim control over your life. Boundaries define your worth. When you set boundaries, you send a message. I am worthy of respect. I am worthy of peace. I am worthy of relationships that don't require me to sacrifice myself. But not everyone will celebrate your newfound strength. And that's when things get difficult. How people react when you set boundaries, they test you. The first thing people do when they encounter a new boundary is test it. If they've been used to having unrestricted access to your time, energy, and emotions, they won't just accept the change immediately. Are you serious? You never had a problem with this before? So what? I can't even ask you for help now? Oh, come on, just this once. They're hoping that if they push hard enough, you'll cave. Because if you do, they know your boundary isn't real, it's just a suggestion. They make you feel guilty. When testing doesn't work, guilt tripping begins. This is where the emotional manipulation comes in. I guess I'm just not important to you anymore. Wow, you've really changed. I would never do this to you. The goal to make you feel selfish for protecting yourself. Because if they can make you feel bad, maybe you'll go back to being the version of yourself that was easier to control. They get angry when guilt doesn't work. Some people escalate to anger. They'll lash out, call you names, or accuse you of being rude, distant, or ungrateful. Why? Because anger is often a mask for fear. They fear losing the benefits of a relationship where they were always in control. They fear losing access to someone who used to prioritize them over themselves. But here's what you have to remember. Their anger is not your responsibility. A healthy person will respect your boundaries even if they don't like them. An unhealthy person will try to bulldoze through them. How to stand firm in your boundaries. Be clear and direct. A boundary is only effective if it's clearly communicated. You don't have to over-explain or justify it. Just state it confidently. Weak boundary, I guess I'd rather not, but if you really need me to, strong boundary, I won't be able to do that. Don't apologize for having boundaries. You are not doing something wrong by setting limits. You do not need to say, I'm sorry for protecting your energy. Instead of saying, sorry, I just can't handle that right now, try saying, that doesn't work for me. Enforce consequences. If boundary without consequences is just a request, If someone keeps crossing the line after you've been clear, you need to take action. That could mean limiting contact, walking away from a conversation, or even distancing yourself from the relationship if necessary. Expect discomfort. But don't let it stop you. Setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first. You might feel guilty. You might worry about upsetting people. That's normal. But discomfort is temporary. The long-term peace that comes from enforcing your boundaries is worth it. The power of choosing yourself. The truth is, the people who truly care about you, the ones who genuinely respect and love you, will not punish you for setting boundaries. They might need time to adjust, but they will honor your limits. The ones who react with anger, guilt, or exclusion, they're revealing something important. They value the benefits of being in your life more than they valued you as a person. And that's not love, that's control. So when you feel tempted to break your own boundaries just to keep someone happy, ask yourself, am I choosing them at the cost of myself? Because the people who belong in your life, the ones who deserve a seat at your table, will never require you to betray yourself to keep them around. And the moment you stop letting people walk all over you, that's the moment you truly step into your own power. There comes a moment in life when you have to make a choice. Do I live for their approval or do I live for my truth? It's not an easy choice. Approval is seductive. It feels safe. It feels familiar. From the time we are young, we are conditioned to seek approval, to be the good child, the agreeable friend, the easy to get along with coworker. We learn, sometimes painfully, that being liked often means being compliant, and being accepted often means being small. But what happens when approval comes at the cost of authenticity? What happens when the price of belonging is your own voice, your own needs, your own values? That's when courage must step in. Why approval is so addictive. Let's be honest. Being liked feels good. When people approve of us, when they validate our choices, when they say, "You're doing great," it reassures us. It makes us feel like we belong. And as human beings, belonging is a fundamental need. But here's where it gets dangerous. When we start prioritizing approval over self-respect. When we stay silent in conversations where we should speak up just to avoid conflict. When we say yes to things we don't want to do just to keep people happy. When we downplay our success just to avoid making others uncomfortable. When we betray our own needs just to avoid the possibility of rejection. We trade little pieces of ourselves for approval, thinking we are keeping the peace. But the truth is, the more we sacrifice our authenticity for approval, the more we start to lose ourselves. And that's when we have to ask, is it really worth it? Approval versus authenticity, the crossroads. At some point, we all arrive at a crossroads. On one side, there is approval, the comfort of being liked, accepted, and fitting in. On the other side, there is courage, the willingness to stand in your truth, even if it means standing alone. This choice isn't theoretical. It plays out in everyday moments. Speaking up when something isn't right, even when it makes people uncomfortable. Saying no when something doesn't align with your values, even when others expect a yes. Walking away from relationships that diminish you, even when staying would be easier. Pursuing dreams that others don't understand, even when it means facing doubt or criticism. Choosing courage over approval isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice, because the moment you stop living for other people's validation, you start living for yourself. What happens when you choose courage over approval? Some people won't like it, and that's okay. Let's be real, not everyone will celebrate your growth. The people who benefited from your silence, your compliance, your people-pleasing, they may not like the version of you who stands firm. They may call you selfish. They may accuse you of changing. They may try to pull you back into old patterns. That's okay, let them, because anyone who only valued you when you were easy to control never truly valued you. They valued what they could get from you. You will face discomfort. Growth is uncomfortable. Standing in your truth can feel lonely at times. You might second guess yourself. You might wonder if you're being too harsh, too distant, too independent. But here's the thing, discomfort is temporary. The initial sting of disappointing others is nothing compared to the long-term exhaustion of disappointing yourself. You will attract the right people when you stop performing for approval. You create space for genuine relationships. The people who stay, they're the ones who truly value you, the ones who respect your voice, your boundaries, your authenticity. And the ones who leave, let them go. Because true connection is built on honesty, not on pleasing people at your own expense. How to strengthen your courage, recognize when you're seeking approval, start paying attention to the moments when you hesitate, when you catch yourself thinking, what will they think? Or will they still like me? Pause. Ask yourself, am I making this choice for me or for their approval? Practice small acts of bravery. Courage isn't always about grand, dramatic moments. It's built in small, everyday choices. Saying no without over-explaining. Expressing your opinion, even if it's unpopular. Setting boundaries and not backing down. Each time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen your ability to stand in your truth. Accept that not everyone will approve, and let